Hi guys, in this video we're going to look at skinning, the skinning process where we attach this mesh to the skeleton and it will then become something called a skin. So the first part of this is fairly simple. I am going to select the hierarchy here. So I'm just going to select the hips, the thing that's at the top of the hierarchy. You'll also notice I've built in the legs since then as well, so you can see how I've put these in here, and yeah, I've named everything so everything makes sense. I'm going to select that. I'm going to shift select the actual mesh itself. You'll notice the mesh has quite a lot of vertices, so it needs these vertices in order to actually deform and bend. If it doesn't have the vertices there, it won't work. We're then going to be in rigging again. We're going to go up to skin and we're going to look at this bind skin here. So if I click this, we can look at the options. To be honest, you can again reset and just use default here and click bind skin. Okay, yep, that's fine there. And if I click bind skin, now this mesh is bound to this. So let's have a little look at what we've got. So we can now actually start to bend and deform this mesh and see how much of a good job it's done. So you'll notice here that my head is moving a little bit when I move his arm. The side is moving a little bit, but that actually looks fairly natural in the way it's working, but I don't want his head to move there. Let's have a look at this joint here for his neck. Okay, we've got a few problems there caused because some of the influence. So what's actually happening here is the mesh is saying that these vertices are attached to particular bones. So these vertices can have maximum numbers of influence, which means they can be affected by more than one bone. So this one here might be affected 70% by this one, but it may also be affected 30% by this bone over here. Okay, or one of the other bones sort of thing. So it kind of distributes them there. If I select my skin and just go to skin, go to bind pose, it's just going to go back to default for me there. And what we can do is we can alter that influence. So if I go into skin and I want this one here, paint skin waves, and this is where things start to get a little complex. So I am going to open up my tool settings. For now I'm going to close that outliner here and I'm going to go over my tools. So at the moment I can see that everything, all my bones are in this list here, and this is the influence that I'm painting. So if I just select that left shoulder up here, you can see that the left shoulder, the more white it is, the more it's affected by it. The more grey it is, or closer to black, the less it's affected. So you can see it's affecting quite a large area, and you can see it's actually affecting some of the head up here as well. Some people prefer to use a heat map, so you can use a color map instead, and this kind of sometimes is a bit easier, so you can see that it is being affected up there. So we can look at altering that, and we have got our settings over here. These are my brush settings over here. I highly recommend that you use this one here, so it's a hard brush. This one's a softer brush. You can use it, but I find this one's better for what I like to do. I've then got replace, add, scale, and smooth here. What this does is if I go to replace, and then I look here, there's a value of 1. The opacity is here as well. I recommend you do not touch that. If I replace with a value of 1 whilst on this bone and then I paint here, you can see that this now is going to be affected 100% by that bone there. You can see that happening here. So let's just go back and get rid of that and then go back into this tool. So what I want at this point is if I go to a value of 0, I'll replace that there. So I'm essentially erasing these. If you hold B down and then left click, you can make your brush size smaller or bigger. So again, I'm just kind of trying to remove some of that influence up there. Every single vertex has sort of a value of 1 or 0. So 1 is going to be that 100% affected. So if I paint around there, it's going to be 100% affected by the bone that I've currently got selected, which is that left shoulder there. and that's shown through this heat map. So each little vertex has a maximum of 1, or kind of 100%. So you can see up here, this is being affected maybe sort of 10% by that bone there. If we just set that to 0.1, we should be able to see it's painting that influence in there. So I can start to paint in the influence that I want and kind of remove parts that it shouldn't have on. So you can see that bone there is affecting quite a lot. And as soon as I remove it from one vertex, it's adding it on to another vertex there as well. So I'm just going to take that out, keep it fairly close to this here. I could then use smooth to just go around and just soften it. So it's just smoothing off the edges here. Super. So now, if I move this, I shouldn't move the head anymore. Okay, you can see there's some things I've missed just underneath there. Sometimes if you set a keyframe and move that down, set another keyframe, you can actually see it animating there, and that can help you. So I can now go back into my paint weight tool, I can see those there, go back to my replace value of 0 and start to remove those parts that I don't want to move. Some of them are a bit stubborn. You have to kind of change your angle, maybe improve your size. Paint those out so that it's not affecting it. And now I can just scrub and see if anything's affecting it there. You can also see this looks a bit jaggedy around here, so I'm going to go back to that smooth and make it less and just start softening that off. So using animation is quite a good way to sort of blend and improve your skinning. Okay, let's go here, and then we can have a look at what this bone's affecting. So generally that's pretty good there. Okay, let's see my other arm, is that affecting everything? So this is starting to affect our head now here. So let's go back to our skin, press Y to go in here. I'm going to go back to replace, let's find right shoulder, and you can see all of that influence is up here. Now another way we can remove this is go to the head, and I want all of the head to be affected by that head bone. So I could go to replace with a value of 1 here, make this big and start painting that influence in there now. So because I'm painting an influence of 1, it's removing it from that bone down there that it was initially affected by. I might get some trouble just inside the mouth, possibly. Okay, and you would be very careful sort of painting this influence. I'm just going around that row of vertices there. And then I could start to smooth around this edge. So it's blending in a little bit more. Okay, let's have a look at that now. So now that's a little bit better. I can see there's still a few little problems here and there. I just need to patch those up. See how the neck's doing. Super. I can see that my eyes here are not moving. They're actually separate parts of the mesh. I could use what I already know about, so I found them in here somewhere. So these two. Okay, I could actually parent them up. So if I hold middle mouse button, I could drag them onto the head. So they're now actually parented to that head. So when I move my skeleton, they'll move with it there. Okay, so you'd follow this process throughout every single bone and make sure every bone's moving and deforming how you want it to. Checking things like the legs, so you can see it's affecting that tail there. I should have maybe put some bones in for that tail. Yeah, I'll just show you how I would do these knees here. Let's go to the left knee. Left knee, not in the outward panel. left knee there. So I'm going to need to replace, so I'm going to replace with a value of 1, and I'm going to do quite a lot around here. I'm going to make sure that I've got that all the way down. I'm going to paint that value of 1. I want that leg to move completely with that bone there. So take that down. Perfect. Get that off there. Okay, I'm then going to go 1 up to the upper leg, and I'm going to do the same thing. So again, I want this to be a fairly hard sort of join on that. So I've just gone around the opposite row of vertices there, paint that up, and we'll smooth this out a little bit later. Super. There we go. So now when I bend this leg, I'm going to get a little bit of clipping, but you'll find that that clipping actually looks fairly natural there, but around the front it doesn't. So I am now going to just use my smooth on this. So I'm going to smooth, I'm going to do it fairly visually. Sort of softening off that part here. Okay, and let's look at the left knee, do the same thing again. So I'm sort of softening off that part, so it's bending, but keeping it clipping on the back. So hopefully we get a fairly sort of natural looking thing. I'm getting a little bit of a pinch in here. So again, I can just soften that little part. Okay, super. So in this video we've looked into painting weights. Set this guy back to his bind pose again, so it goes back to normal. I would go through and do this on the whole character. It will take a little bit of time. It is fairly tricky to understand, but again, remember each vertex has an influence of 1 there. So think of that as like 100%. So this vertex I'm hovering my mouse over might be affected 50% by this bone, 30% by this bone, and 20% by this bone. So it's kind of attached to those, and it moves with those. It would move 50% with this one, 30% with this one, and 20% with this one. And it will kind of, that's what you're doing when you're painting your weight, just setting that influence there on how they move. Okay, alright, thank you very much.